episode of Beers at Real Talk. And joining me today, we have the lovely Amy and Larissa. Today's conversation is all around entrepreneurship and the real impact on our children. So, ladies, both of you have been in business a long time, like myself, and we've all got children. Obviously, my eldest is 21, my youngest is 11, the youngest two are additional needs. So, there's lots of positive and negatives that our children can learn from us through entrepreneurship. So we're just going to dive straight in and kind of open the conversation up about all things entrepreneurship and the things our kids get from it. So who wants to start? Go on, Larissa, you can start
Okay,
today.
right. I was going to ask what part of entrepreneurship do you want there? I feel like it's such a big, broad spectrum, but I definitely know when I grew up, I had parents that worked for a living, and I grew up expecting to go to school, get a job, and have like the double attached garage and white picket fence. And I never imagined getting into the world of business until I had my first career, which was in personal finance. And I started meeting business people and I started learning about business. But it was such a foreign concept to me. It was intriguing, but it was also really, really intimidating. And I remember when I first jumped into this world of business, there was a lot of excitement and mystery, but there was also a lot of intimidation. And my son has been born into this mindset. And when I look at him, I see a very different perspective. I see such different questions, such a different attitude. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this is going to serve him long term or not, because he has no fear. Like, he is totally fearless. He's like, oh, why can't we just go do this? Of course, everything just works out. Of course, we have money. Of course, this happens. He just has this different attitude of expectancy, of curiosity, of willingness, and of desire. Like, he knows how to dream, which I know growing up, I never did. And it took a long time for me to even get to the point of being able to dream. I remember growing up, if you would have asked me what I wanted for Christmas, I'm like, well, I don't know what I want. Like, why would I want anything? I just expect to get this much money from this much money from this person, because our family just gave money, checks or cash, and we just expected to get a certain amount at Christmas because that was the expectation. But there was never any room for desire. And it wasn't from any place. It was conditioned. It's just the way it was. And so I didn't know how to start looking at life creatively and really serving people and the importance of putting beautiful things out there in the world until I got into the thick of it and really started studying the world of business and entrepreneurship for myself. So,
Now, I completely get where you're going with the mindset thing. So, obviously, my youngest, he's 11, he's autistic, and he's it's not his autism that makes him stand out from his peers, if that makes sense. It's his mindset. So, if he's dysregulated, he'll just take himself off in the middle of the playground and go sit there doing meditation. He's not got a phone on him or anything, he's not allowed them in school, but he'll just ground himself and do meditation and visualization. And one of his teachers, he turned around and said, Tommy, you are a leader. You don't know it yet, but you are a leader. You're setting an example. And don't get me wrong, it's made bullying really challenging with him because of that neurodiversity plus a different mindset to the kids. Um, but like there's so much he's learned. I think the funniest thing with him though was pricing structure. So we obviously stay in the caravan on a holiday site, and the arcade, he went and spent £1 and he won two lollipops. He then goes into the playground to play, and there's children going, oh, I really want a lollipop. So there's my little boy, and he's like, well, I've got two. So if you want one, then it's £2. If you want the two, it's four. And the child turned around and said, I've only got a £5 note. He said, well, it is a £1 service fee as well, because I've came to you, you've not had to come to me. I'm like,
I love that.
literally, he's gone to the arcade and he's come back with a fiver, and I'm like, it's like, well, Mum, I heard you talk to your your clients about pricing structure and they got it all wrong because you have to times it by 4. And then there's a service fee, right? If you have to go to them, you have to, claim your expenses. I'm like, okay, so you learn mindset, you learn pricing structure. What else are you learning? But I love it because he just has this expansive way of thinking, and like your son, Larissa, there's no matter of at that age where they stop dreaming and stop believing things are possible, and society tells me it's not possible. He's like, and it is. I just need to find what's possible for me and the way to do it. He's like, Mom, how old until I can start my YouTube channel? I'm like, you're not old enough yet, dude. It's like, but if I did a YouTube channel, I can do digital products and I can do this and I can do that. And he's literally got it all there already. He's got a business plan.
My son's right up there. He's like, he's upset. I'm like, we will start one when we have time, but I'm not ready to invest that into a YouTube channel for him, right? Not quite yet, not quite yet. But he's been begging me for about 2 years. So
Mine as
Yeah.
well.
Seven,
My
he's
YouTube
7.
channel. I'm like, guys, I can barely keep my own life together. Why would I want to set up a YouTube channel and help you with that when I can't even do my own?
I don't think I've helped Matt as we're starting the show because obviously I am hosting it on YouTube. So it's like, but Mum, you said YouTube channels and it's time consuming and this, that, and the other. And you said you have no time, but you've got you're starting a YouTube channel. I was like, well, if you're that invested, maybe you can help. Do it's I like to include.
So I love the idea of him selling his lollipops. So I have a little story. My little boy, he's 10 now, and I've got an 8-year-old. And it was so funny. Like, they went to my next door neighbours to bake cookies. They literally spent like the whole afternoon there just like baking cookies. And then they come back and they're like, Mommy, we've got all these cookies. They're like, we're going to set a table up out the front of the house and we're going to sell the cookies. And I was thinking, guys, this is incredible. You've just baked cookies with the next door neighbour's ingredients. You haven't spent a penny. You've used all of their electricity baking them. And now I'm going to go sell them out the front and make money. I was like, that's a great business model. Like, you literally haven't spent anything. But yeah, I think my kids have always grown up with me being self-employed, being an entrepreneur. They don't know any different. So
Yeah.
I feel like they've kind of just got that entrepreneurial spirit probably from just the way I am and the way I do things and view things. And I'm never gonna stop them from kind of having these ideas. I think it's really important for them. But I asked my son earlier, I was like, what do you think about me being self-employed and being an entrepreneur? He was like, I love it because you work from home, so you're always at home. I was like, oh yeah, well, that's fine.
I think my kit a little bit different these days. So when I was in my product-based businesses and I was not working in the way I work now, I was working, as you know, ridiculous amounts of hours. And even when my eldest, who's 21, even when she was younger, I worked 90-hour weeks. So initially, being self-employed for them was negative. They missed out on so much time with mum. My eldest, however, I was in employment, I was self-employed, but there was only her, right? So I was at every single event she did at school. They'd go on trips and I was the parent helper because I didn't have to, because my self-employment was working as a manager for my grandparents. It meant that I had that flexibility with hours where I could be present. But if you ask her now, because she was so little, she remembers the time I was in leadership roles when I wasn't self-employed, and she'll tell me, say, Mum, you were never there. So however, she's as I said, not even 21, she's in a leadership role, she's doing really well for herself. And when she went for the interviews, they said, where did you learn these skills? And she's like, oh, my mum's had businesses and run businesses her whole life. So I learned them from my mum. So I think I definitely have more balance now. I think that's what we're talking about, is like having that balance. So they see the positives in it, because like for a very long time being self-employed could be a negative because I was missing out on things for my kids. But now the way in which you do it, like now my business model works so much better for me and for my children, and I'd never want to revert back to them feeling like they wasn't the priority.
Well, it's important to have kids see us do the business, but it's also important to have kids be involved in some aspect. And I've listened to so many different audios and different mentors that have gotten their kids involved at appropriate stages based on their age. And I can't remember the owner of Baskin Robbins. He had his kids, like, they were sweeping floors, they were doing paperwork. They were doing different roles in the business over the years. And we've tried to include our son in we have rental properties, and then we also have my business. And so we've tried including him in ways that are appropriate, starting with paper shredding. He does not like paper shredding, but he earns money when he's desperate. He's like, Mama, you got some paper shredding? I have this thing I want to buy. But we teach him that you need to earn money. We will buy you a lot of things, but there are certain things that if you want to buy, you need to go find a way to earn the money. You can earn it from us. Here's your opportunity, or you can go earn it however you want. And it's taught him that earning money is important to do every day. You've got to find ways to earn money. He likes higher profit margins. He's learned that he doesn't like spending a lot of time earning a little. He likes spending little time earning a lot. So he's definitely learned the value of money. We gave him an allowance for one of our vacations. He learned what sales tax is during that trip because he had to do all that. He's like, but I have this money. I'm like, well, you've got tax to cover. And so he learned about sales tax. And then I had a book launch, and I speak live. And so one of the things we had him start doing is selling the book. So at my book launch, a lot of people bought books, but he recently went to another networking event where they said, bring a table, sell your books. But at this networking event, like not everyone, they're not there to buy books. So a couple people bought books, but we were there to network. And afterwards he's like, why didn't a lot of people buy books? And he was furious because he wanted more commissions, because he was a little upset. And I think it really taught him that not everyone's going to meet your expectations. But we also had a discussion that says, well, even if I don't sell a lot of books, like I gave a few extra books away, we built really good relationships, and he wasn't doing the active networking, but we built good relationships. And what happens when you build the relationships? They become your clients. And so we started looking at like, well, what's a $5,000 or $10,000 client? What value is that versus a $30 book or a $20 book? And so he started thinking, he's like, okay, well, maybe I may not get this money right off the bat, but building those relationships, he's still mulling the concept over. But I think it's an opportunity for us to teach them that there are different ways to generate income. Sometimes things don't work out the way you anticipate, but you've got to find the opportunities in whatever it is that you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to work hard and keep spinning your wheels. Like there's no point in getting upset, throwing a hissy fit, which is natural for kids to do, but we also do it too. Like who doesn't throw hissy fits? We just may not kick and scream and shout as much, or at least in public, like they do when they're younger. And it's different, but we do throw these little hissy fits, and it's how fast we rebound. It's how fast we adapt, how fast we navigate that determines our success or failure in life, because we're all going to fall off the wagon, or things will work differently than anticipated. What are we doing about it, and how are we learning from it?
I think that expectation thing, I've really struggled with letting go of expectation. I'm definitely better at it now. But try not to get emotionally attached to the outcome. And actually, I look back and I was like, where did that start? That was definitely childhood. It sounds really unrelated, but it was exams. The teachers, my family, everyone. She's a straight A student, so that's what we expected to get. And then that expectation came. I think if me being in business means that I can learn to let go of expectation, my children can learn those skills early, I'd be happy. I'd be happy because I feel like that's one of the biggest things that held me back for such a long time. I can't do that because what if it doesn't work out the way I want it to? Rather than me thinking, do you know what? I've got a good feeling about this, and I think that logically, and it just feels right. It feels right. And it makes sense. I'm gonna give it a go. If it don't work out, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, I overthought everything, and I don't want my kids to ever, be there overthinking in the way I did. I want them to be able to dream and go for it.
I think that's one of the benefits, I think, of being an entrepreneur. Like we have to go through the transformational process ourselves on learning who we are, how we can cope with things, how we can adapt. And I think if we can show our kids that we can get through it, if there's something that doesn't quite work out, but actually what's the worst that's happened? We learn, we dust ourselves off and we try again. I think teaching our kids like that kind of resilience is really important. It just sets them up for the future. And I think being an entrepreneur, obviously we are experiencing that all the time, maybe more so than someone that is employed and working for a company, turning up, being told what to do. This is what's expected of you, going home at the end of the day. Like we have to learn all of this ourselves, and we have to make sure that we are resilient and that we are showing up, and that we are teaching our kids that it is absolutely fine if things don't work out. You just have to work another way around how to get there. I think it's definitely helped my kids. They're learning that actually they don't need to put so much pressure on themselves if things don't go right.
There was a mentor that told me, she's like, if you're in the entrepreneurial space, you're signing up for a lifetime MBA. And that really stuck with me because it's so true. Whether you have the MBA or not, if you're going to get in business and stay in business if you don't keep growing and evolving and developing pretty much for the rest of your life in some capacity. You're not going to be around. You can't be. It's not as easy as people say, and it's not as hard as people think. You have to have staying power. And I think that's the biggest thing, because so often people's preconceptions of what business is versus what it actually is, it's very different. And everyone wants to like have the laptop lifestyle. Let's go like work from anywhere, work as much as we want, work from a beach. I'm like, don't try to work at the beach. It's terrible. Your eyes will burn. I tried it. You get sand in your computer. Not a good idea. But you can work on a patio overlooking the water. That's different. Like covered surface. That's better. And entrepreneurial freedom isn't what people expect. However, when you do put the time in, when you do the right things and build the structures to support the business, you do have the flexibility. You do have the so-called freedom to be able to make the choices. And people are ultimately after choice. And for some people, that choice comes when they're employed. And I know a lot of people, I'm like, please don't try to get into entrepreneurial space because you're unhappy with your job. Get happy with yourself. Don't try to be an entrepreneur. Fix the real problem and then really, really think hard before jumping into this, because you've got to have that willingness to stick it out no matter what, because it's going to be like this. It's a roller coaster ride, and it's great. It's amazing, and it's not for everyone.
100%.
I think a lot of people, I do agree with you, Larissa. I think a lot of people from like the communities where I'm from look to going into entrepreneurship because there isn't as many opportunities for them as what there are for, let's say, people from nicer neighborhoods, for example. That's the way I'm going to put it. Yeah, when you're from an inner city area, which is known for high gang rates, high drug rates, etc., there is a level of stigmatism that is there. So when you go for a college interview or a university interview or a job interview, it's like you have to, we hear a lot about it, but I'm just going to call it out. I'm going to say it. You have to impress them more than somebody who comes from a nice area in the city where you live.
Confidence definitely has a big part of it, right? It's not necessarily where you grow up, because I have a family member who was he grew up middle class, but he got involved with some really bad life choices and got into like the drug world and things that are not anything I am familiar with. I'm like, this is not my world. I don't understand a lot of it, but doesn't have the confidence to actually go out. And he's like, if I could just be in this world, I'd be a king. He's like, I love it because I feel so powerful. I know how to earn money. I know how to do this. And he knows how to work with suppliers. He knows how to do all of this. Can't do that anymore when you make some bad life choices. But the underlying skill set, I was like, you have brilliant skills as an entrepreneur. I'm like, why can't you comprehend applying them to a brilliant business? Like, he's got such natural, intuitive business skills that 95% of people fail at. He's like, how can you not earn more money than you spend? I'm like, well, this is why 95% of businesses fail. How can you not go out and hustle? How can you not go out and sell? How can you not, draw people in? And like, doesn't use the typical words of marketing and sales, but has all the natural skill sets to do this, but just doesn't have the belief system. And grew up in a relatively well, like not like super high income, but not poor family, and did have support, but just didn't have that self-belief system that he could apply it in another way. And it just breaks my heart, because I'm just like, you have the natural ability, like you were born to do this. And if only you were willing to open your eyes. And I think a lot of that does come from the support you're given. And sometimes it's sad, but not everyone sees the support that they have available to them. And even when they have hardships and even when they have support, they reject it. And I think it's difficult to see that. And even when you speak up, not have it be heard. And our kids, how often do we say things and we're like, we're saying it, why aren't you hearing it? And it's difficult to be able to know certain things and just not have people hear what you're saying or feel your belief in them. And that's one thing I don't think, regardless of our children, I think we have to accept that, yes, they are destined for their own path. We can do the best we can for our kids, our friends, our family, our loved ones. And ultimately, they do have to make their own choice. And I love being in control. I love it when people do what I want.
I love it if my kids do what I want.
Yeah, but unfortunately, for me, I think it's a life lesson as a parent, especially now, and just someone in business, to really realize like people really do have their own path. And sometimes you just have to give them space and give them opportunity as much as you can, and give them the space.
Yeah, it's definitely giving them the opportunity, giving them the right tools so that they can go through life. But at the end of the day, they are their own people, and we've got to let them we've got to let them make their own choices. We can obviously give our little opinion and our little, I don't think that's quite the right idea, or maybe try this instead. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, we've got to let go of the reins and just let them figure it out for themselves sometimes, and just be there. Just be there unconditionally. And
Amy, I've got to say, I can't wait till your kids are teenagers to see
oh,
the skill sets they have.
Darcy is an absolute susspot. Honestly, the things that she comes out with. I mean, she comes out with some incredible stuff. Like in the car the other day, Mummy, I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm like, great. That's incredible. I love that goal. How are you going to get there? I don't know. I'm 8. It's like, okay, got a long time to think about this. It's fine. You know, I think having we do this thing at home. We do this thing every year at Christmas where we all put like a goal for the year that we want to achieve, or like any goals that we have that we can work towards throughout the year. So I think that's definitely something that I've picked up from being entrepreneurial and having goals in business. I want to instill that level of them being able to, you know, look to the future. What is it that they want? What, you know, what can they work towards? What can they look to achieve? And I don't think that I would have possibly instilled that kind of idea or mindset into them if I wasn't an entrepreneur. Yeah, Jack's got some great goals. One of them, like they both do taekwondo. He wants to get his black belt. I'm like, yes, you know, it's a great goal to have. You know, you're working on yourself, and we can only get bigger and better goals as we get older. So yeah, I think
it's like I said, sorry, let me just quick off there, Amy. I think it's like when, you know, I think for me and my kids and the people I know, when they come from communities where, you know, they're told they're limited in what they can do, they've got no prospects ahead of them. There's only seasonal work, like living in a seaside town. There's only seasonal work. There's not enough jobs for all of you. So just get comfortable basically with entry level jobs and being on benefits half the year and in work employment the rest of the year. I think for my kids, having me as a mum, showing them there's other ways. I wouldn't have that any other way, if that makes sense. I would never want my children to have an enjoyable life and a life that they love, that they have to move away to achieve that. I want them to know they have choice in everything they do. I don't ever want them to feel trapped into situations that don't feel right for them. And that would have been the same had I still lived in the city and raised them back in Birmingham in the community it was in then. You know, that mindset of, okay, well, these are your options. You go to college and try and get a really good career, or there's going to be, you know, people from gangs trying to enroll you, enlist you at the age of like 12. I found that being an entrepreneur, being self-employed was my way out of that mindset and that lifestyle. And no, I wouldn't say out of that community because I still love that community. It's still very dear to my heart, and I want to help them and give them the opportunities that I've been given. But I'd have been trapped in that very low. I wouldn't have the expansive mindset I have, and my kids certainly wouldn't have the expansive mindsets that they have. I think it's okay. They've missed out on some time with me, but I can navigate that now. I've got a better systems, better structure in my business. I've learned from that, and as a result, my kids, when they have children, obviously my eldest is now mum. She's very mindful of what she does within self-employment and employment, to the skills that she passes down, the lessons that her son learns. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for self-employed parents and their families. And yes, there are going to be some downsides, there's pros and cons to everything. But for me and my family personally, I think it's kind of liberating from something that's quite aggressive, if that makes sense.
Well, we do have and I love how you were talking about the ability to teach children the goals, right? Like when we have goals or something to aspire to, we have something to work towards. Yesterday, we were shopping for some teacher gifts after school. So we went to a nice area of town, and we were just going through some boutiques, and we were in one of the shops. And this random man, like super charismatic, fun man that used to be in marketing and is now retired. I don't know how we struck up this conversation, but we just started talking. We probably talked for about 25 minutes in the store as we were shopping. And he collects cars. He collects older cars. And we were talking about that. And I asked my son, I'm like, so what car do you want? He's like, I want a golden Ferrari as my first car. And the fact that he knows what Ferraris are, he's looked them up, he knows the difference. And so it led into a really big discussion. But my son was also telling him about some other goals. And like your kids, my son wants to be a billionaire as well. I thought a billionaire coder, but he said billionaire comedian. So ironically, a comedian, a man that used to do stand-up comedy in the city for 10 years was also walking out of the same shop. It was just serendipitous. I think it was hilarious. We just had a great time. And so my son got to learn about what you need to do to get into stand-up comedy. He got some great tips. He got to just, shoot it out with this big man that was like giving him tips about cars and expanding his dream. And what I thought was really interesting is the man that had the cars, he's like, why are you buying such expensive teacher gifts? You're not going to have money for our Ferrari. He's like, we just have to go earn more money. He's like, what do you mean? Like, why can't we spend money and be generous? We just go find more money. And I thought that was really clever because it was interesting that this one man that had part of my son's dream still had this limited mindset. Well, if you spend money on this, you won't have enough. And my son, who obviously we had to teach him a couple summers ago that you actually have to pay the Visa that you tap. So we went totally cash for a summer. We also had to do that because he's like, just put it on the Visa. What do you mean we just can't buy everything on Visa? I'm like, yes, and you have to pay for the Visa. So let's make sure that the numbers balance out. But he does have that mindset of, okay, well, if we spend our money, we'll just go get more. If we spend our money, we'll just go find more. If we spend our money, Mom, go find more clients. If we spend our money, okay, go get to work. What else can we do to help people? How else can we serve? A few years ago, he wanted fish. This is probably when he was 5. And this is like his first kind of creative idea. And we said, I'm not buying fish. I'm not looking after them. Last thing I want to do is look after, even, I know fish are low maintenance, but you got to clean the tanks. So not my idea of a good time. So I said, you find the money for everything, you can have your fish. And so he was motivated. Like that first night I gave him the go ahead. I'm like, well, if you find the money, you go buy your fish. We went to a fish store. We did the budget for everything he needed. And that night we got home and he's like, okay. And he started pulling out all his musical instruments. And he had like a bunch of little instruments and he pulled them out by the front door. And he's like, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to go out and busk, because people at the farmer's market busk, and where he always throws money into the buskers. And he's like, I'm going to go busk on the street. And so he pulled out Friday night to go busking on the street. And he was a little upset because he only made what, like $15, $20. But I mean, it's not bad for like an hour of busking for a 5-year-old that really doesn't know how to play instruments. He was just cute.
I bet that was adorable.
Adorable. He wrote the sign, raising money for fish, and he put it out in front of him, raising money for fish. And so that night, he's like, well, what if we just ask our neighbors for the money? I'm like, you can't do that. You have to add value. And he's like, well, how about I write a letter and tell them what I'm raising money for and ask them to come listen to me play? And I'm like, and at first I was like, who am I to shut this kid down? And I did at first. And he argued with me. And so we wrote this beautiful letter to the neighbors, a full page letter. He wrote it by hand. I have to find it. It's super cute. We photocopied it. We went door to door, ringing everyone's bells at like I think after 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and gave the letters. We had some people just give him money right away. I'm like, you do the talking. I'm like, I will go with you to make sure you don't get kidnapped, but you do the talking. I'm like, I'll give you the script. I'll help you out, but I'm not going to do your pitches for you. If you want the money, you do it. And so he went around and people came and then he earned like over $120 in like within 24 hours of just coming up with this idea. That was like his first real effort to procure funds for an endeavor. And that was amazing. And then afterwards, he started doing like telephone calls to family members. He's like, hey, like, I want some fish. Like, do you got any money for me? So finding investors. And I thought it was a really great life skill. And I was really proud of him. But I would have never in my wildest dreams done that. We sold $2 chocolate almonds when we were kids. We didn't do anything quite that sophisticated, but he had guts to just go do it and just make it happen. And so that it taught me a lot. I think that initially I doubted him, but who am I to hold him back? And kids are capable of a lot. And when we support them, we can help them build that confidence that I know I never had. He didn't want to do all of the stuff, but I'm like, I'm not doing it for you. Do you want this thing or do you want to just be comfortable? And so often we're comfortably uncomfortable instead of willing to step out of that comfort zone.
I think we can learn a heck of a lot from your son. Like just having that sheer, unapologetic, like, I want the money, so I need to go get the money. And just like not having anything holding you back from it. I think it's amazing. Like, could you imagine what we could all achieve and make if we had the confidence of a 5-year-old with a musical instrument and a pen and just the dream of having fish? Like, I think that's amazing. What we did, or I did at home, so I created like this little savings book for the kids. So I'm teaching them the value of money and a money mindset. So every time they save, they color in a coin. If there's something in particular that they want, they write it down and then they color in each thing until they get to the goal. And then I've popped like a little bubble here, money making ideas, so they can just pop any ideas down on how they can make money. And I just love it when you get them to go, like, you're just like, right, so how can you make some money today? Like, what can you do? And they're like, well, we could go and like pull some weeds in the neighbor's garden, see if they'll pay us to do a little bit of weeding. I'm like, fabulous idea. So yeah, I think teaching them the value of money, teaching them that actually things aren't free and you have to earn money. And if you want money, then go get it. Like, I think money is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's there for us to take and earn. And I think if we put that limiting belief on them that actually you have to work really, really hard to get money and you have to get a really good job, and like, I feel like we're putting a negative emotion onto it. So I like to think that my kids see me enjoying my job. They like to see, like, I do work a longer day on a Monday, so they know that they've got to be quiet while I'm working at home. But then like the rest of the week, they have me after school. And I like the balance that we've got. They know when I'm working that they have to be, like right now, like Jack's doing a stop motion video while I'm doing this. Like he's enjoying himself. He's learning technology and things like that. So yeah,
I love your idea. I'm totally taking it. We have money jars that we do, but I love the concreteness of this much money for this particular goal. I can't believe I haven't thought of that with my son, but I'm definitely using your idea. So thank you for that.
well, the book's available on Amazon. Little plug. I did a KDP thing.
I love that, Amy. We need the link. Send me the link and I'll put it under your bio on the website.
Yeah, thanks.
One of the things we started doing is I studied with T. Harv Eker about 20 years ago. He wrote Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and he basically does like the envelope technique, but with money jars. And so with my son, we have his financial freedom account. We have a long term. So this is for like investment. So he's bought silver, he's saving for gold. And so he makes his own investments. He's learning about the difference between assets and liabilities. And so we're talking about real estate projects. He's got long-term savings for spending. The first thing he bought was an $80 stuffy. I was like, why would you want or need? But I'm like, I can't, this is his choice, but he saved $80 for his first big purchase. I can't remember what he's saving for now, but he's got long-term savings for spending. He's got education. He just bought himself another book yesterday. So, and then what else does he have? Oh, fun. He has a wallet for this money. So this has to be blown every month. He's very capable. And then giving. We went to a fundraiser and he walked in with $100 bill. He took $100 bill and he's like, I'd like to donate this money. He's like, oh, your mom? And he's like, no, this is my money. And it was so cool to see him like donate his own cash to causes he believed in. He gives money to people on the streets. He gives generously, and it gets him thinking about that. But so when he earns money, we put it into the main jar and then we split it up. So all of his money, he doesn't get to blow all the money he earns on toys and ice cream and whatever else he chooses to buy that I'm not allowed to say no to. If it's his money, he gets to spend it how he wants and how he chooses, but we do split it up. So it's intentional. And we've been doing that for years. And we really like that. But I do like the idea of, especially for the long-term savings, it's like, what are you actually building up to? What are you saving for? That's purposeful.
I love the idea of the jars as well, actually, because you've got that visual representation like right in front of you and you can physically see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And especially on the ones where you're actually spending, you can then go, well, it was full, but you've bought this, so now there's none left. Now you have to fill it back up again. So that's a real, I'm gonna implement that.
Google money jars. I think I have a tutorial that I did on one of my Lunch and Learn episodes about the money jars and how we operate and how they work. But it's just so smart. Like we do it with ourselves, but it's so easy for kids because it's concrete. And then you can count your money every week or every month. You go to Money Church and count the money to see where you're at, so you know what the balances are. And that's really important. If you don't know where your money's at, how do you expect to succeed in business?
Yeah, I mean, I love the concept of the jars. I've got to be honest. I absolutely love that. I might actually start doing that with my kids because it might motivate them to actually do their chores to earn their money. Like, I've got no money, mum. Do your chores, you might have some. Because I think there's this misconception as well that children who come from entrepreneurial families that are doing really well for themselves or relatively well for themselves are that spoiled brat syndrome. There's that misconception. And actually, every single entrepreneur I know within like this industry and through the networking, not locally, every single one of them have instilled that work value in their children. You want to create something, you can do it. You want to earn something, you can do it. You want to achieve something, you can do it. But I'm not doing it for you. I'll help you and give you the tools and the knowledge that you need to achieve it if you need support with it, but I'm not doing it for you. You know, yeah, I think it's quite nice to kind of have these stories coming forward where it breaks that misconception of the sport brat syndrome.
Yeah.
I think it's changing though, the mindset that I mean, everyone obviously has different mindsets around money. It all depends on how you're brought up, how your family perceives wealthy people, like passing comments, like even just like little things in the supermarket, just kids saying that they want something, oh no, we can't afford it. So you automatically get that negative money mindset. So I think as entrepreneurs, if we're working on our own money mindset, we can then instill this new belief system into our kids. And I think, you know, money mindset is set at the age of 7. So the sooner that we can talk, I mean, I don't know why people are like, oh, but why are you talking about money with your children? They don't need to know about money. It's like, that is one of the most important times to talk about money, is when they are young. You know, they need to learn these things. The younger they learn them, the better, quite frankly. I think that they'll have a better view on how the world works from an earlier age. And I think you're only setting them up for success by talking about money. And as long as you're doing it in a positive way, to instill that confidence and the belief that actually they can achieve anything they put their minds to, I think it's only positive. Like, I don't think that talking about money and having these money jars and goals and things, I think it's just all good. It's all good.
I think it's important for them to learn about, you know, as young as possible, like you, Amy. I think it's important for them to learn about responsibilities and how to wisely use money, and what is a need and what is a want, because those two things can get confused so easily sometimes as we get older, especially for little ones. Unfortunately, I don't know what it's like in America and Canada and elsewhere in the world, but I know in the UK, like you said, it's very frowned upon talking about money from a young age. It's like you're allowed a bank card if you're owning your own name without your parents' consent. I think it's from about 16 here in the UK, or something like that. And that's when our kids get to go out and kind of spend and earn their money. And I don't think it's healthy. I think you're right. It's something that needs to be learned a lot earlier in life.
Yeah, if they're just given a bank card at the age of 16 though, with no understanding of the repercussions behind that constant tap, 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 you know, that money's got to come from somewhere. It doesn't come on a tree. It doesn't just magically appear. Like, you know, you have to understand it all.
When we look at like the income versus expenses, assets versus liabilities, those are words that are scary. Like, I think even for a lot of adults, and they're how you do business is how you do life, but how you do life is how you do games. And if you really think of business and life and what we're doing as a game, I love Florence Shin's Game of Life and how to play it. Even just the way she like comes at it, like life really is a game. It can be fun, it can be exciting, it can be magical, it can be entertaining, but when you know the rules of the game, you can play it better. And Robert Kiyosaki, he's author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it's a great piece of work. My son and I are studying it right now. And we've been playing the board game for about 2 years now. Now he can play it much more self-sufficiently. He plays the adult version. There's a kid's version of the game, but basically it's a game. It's like Monopoly, but like 100 million times better. You're in the rat race, earning little bits of money, doing small deals, learning about investments and little stock deals and small real estate projects. And you have an income statement. And so you actually have to update, you get a profession, you update how much income you earn, what your expenses are, what assets and liabilities you have. And your goal is to earn enough passive income to exceed your expenses. And when you do, you get to go on the outer perimeter of the board into, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like you get out of the rat race into like the dream, onto the fast track. And so you get to choose your dreams, and you get businesses with so much more cash flow, and you add, I think, 2 zeros, you're like 100x your income. And so instead of your paydays being like $2,000 to $3,000 or $300,000, and all of a sudden you have so much more choice when you get out of the rat race, but you've got to do the work. You've got to be smart and strategic with what you do with the little bit of money you have. And it doesn't matter if you're a secretary or a doctor or a lawyer. If you don't do the right things, you've got to figure out a way, because people that earn more money have a lot more expenses. You've still got to work with what you have in an intelligent way. And so he updates those numbers, he plays, he thinks, and it's like his favorite board game. It just takes us like a whole weekend to play, so we can't play it all the time. He'd love to play it all the time, but it's a brilliant piece of work, and it's so good for families. It's great for grown-ups. It's great for kids. Like Sarah, have a cash flow day with your kids, go buy the board game. That would be fun for your kids to play with, because it's a different world, but it also is a different way of thinking, because at least in the game, you're not really playing with your money, but it really is how the world works. So
yeah, I never thought about that actually, because and I've said to you two quite openly and everybody else before, I never thought of going to business because I was a singer and I trained in childcare and different things. And when you mentioned board games, then I remember growing up, my favorite board games to play was Game of Life, Monopoly. They were all games I was really, really good at and always won. My brother hated losing. Like if he lost, he used to lose all the time. About halfway through, he'd tip board up. But I never ever did the comparison of the two. Like actually I had a love of business and making money from a very young age. I never thought I did, but clearly I did. And you were talking about that game, and they're going, "Oh, I should have played that as a kid." So yeah, I want to get it and like see what happens with my kids. I
We
think
love the game of life. We absolutely love the game of life. In fact, my other half proposed to me while we were playing the game of life. Got to the part where you can like get married, and I went, well, I'm gonna get married, and I clicked on the button, and he like literally dived across the sofa. I was like, no, don't marry me instead. The kids went crazy. It was completely nuts, but it's one of our favorite games.
Oh, that's such a cool memory. So yeah, I'm absolutely good because we've got to start kind of winding down now. But I mean, it's definitely opened up more conversation around it. And I reckon we're definitely going to have some additional episodes. This is like the conversation opener for it. Um, so there's been some great, obviously, lessons and some got major golden nuggets in there today. I'm sure everyone who's watching it, like if you haven't, rewind, go back to the beginning, grab a pen and a paper, take some notes. No, I've really enjoyed today. I don't know about you, ladies. So I just want to thank you so much. And, yeah, I can't wait for the next one. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. I'm hoping you enjoyed it as much as I have and as much as these ladies have. But before we go, I just want to ask, is there anything else you'd like to say, ladies?
I think if you've got goals, go for them. And always instill a positive outlook for your kids.
I was going to say, follow your dreams. I wrote a book called Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away. It's not just about procrastination. It's about focusing on like truly following your dreams. And so often mothers, we use kids as our greatest excuse to hold ourselves back when they're actually, in fact, our greatest reason to fuel ourselves forward. And we all have hidden dreams inside of us. We have dreams that we've put on the sidelines, and it's our responsibility to show up as our best and to truly live a life that we're proud of. I mean, yes, make dinner, yes, be there for your kids, but you can do so much more. It's not about just stuffing. It's bringing more of that miracle of what your life really is supposed to be into it. So
Thank you, ladies. I just want to apologise for any noise in the background my end today. We're recording on a Saturday. I've got one child out back, one at the side out on the patio, and the dog next to me who's finding it rather hot in the seat wave and keeps trying to cool himself down. So apologies for the noise in the background. And I hope you've enjoyed today. Can't wait to see you all on the next episode. And take care until next time.